The East and the West. 1. Introduction. Vast and deep rivers, swelling and impetuous, charming pleasure gardens by the river banks, putting to shame the celestial Nandana Kanana. Amidst these pleasure gardens rise, towering to the sky, beautiful marble palaces, decorated with the most exquisite workmanship of fine art. On the sides, in front, and behind, clusters of huts with crumbling mud walls and dilapidated roofs, the bamboos of which, forming their skeletons as it were, are exposed to view. Moving about here and there emaciated figures of young and old in tattered rags, whose faces bear deep cut lines of the despair and poverty of hundreds of years. Cows, bullocks, buffaloes everywhere. Aye, the same melancholy look in their eyes, the same feeble physique. On the wayside, refuse and dirt. This is our present day India. Worn out huts by the very side of palaces, piles of refuse in the near proximity of temples, the sannyasin clad with only a little loin cloth, walking by the gorgeously dressed, the pitiful gaze of lustreless eyes of the hunger stricken at the well fed and the amply provided. This is our native land. Devastation by violent plague and cholera, malaria eating into the very vitals of the nation, starvation and semi starvation as second nature, death like famine, often dancing its tragic dance, the Kurukshetra battlefield of malady and misery, the huge cremation ground, strewn with the dead bones of lost hope, activity, joy, and courage, and in the midst of that, sitting in august silence, the yogi, absorbed in deep communion with the spirit, with no other goal in life than moksha. This is what meets the eye of the European traveler in India. A conglomeration of 300 million souls, resembling men only in appearance, crushed out of life by being downtrodden by their own people and foreign nations, by people professing their own religion and by others of foreign faiths, patient in labor and suffering and devoid of initiative like the slave, without any hope, without any past, without any future, desirous only of maintaining the present life anyhow, however precarious, of malicious nature befitting a slave, to whom the prosperity of their fellowmen is unbearable, bereft of Shraddha, like one with whom all hope is dead, faithless, whose weapon of defense is base trickery, treachery, and slyness like that of a fox, the embodiment of selfishness, licking the dust of the feet of the strong, withal dealing a death blow to those who are comparatively weak, full of ugly, diabolical superstitions which come naturally to those who are weak and hopeless of the future, without any standard of morality as their backbone. 300 millions of souls such as these are swarming on the body of India like so many worms on a rotten, stinking carcass. This is the picture concerning us, which naturally presents itself to the English official. Maddened with the wine of newly acquired powers, devoid of discrimination between right and wrong, fierce like wild beasts, henpecked, lustful, drenched in liquor, having no idea of chastity or purity, nor of cleanly ways and habits, believing in matter only, with a civilization resting on matter and its various applications, addicted to the aggrandizement of self by exploiting others' countries, others' wealth, by force, trick, and treachery, having no faith in the life hereafter, whose Atman's self is the body, whose whole life is only in the senses and creature comforts. Thus to the Indian, the Westerner is the veriest demon, Asura. These are the views of observers on both sides, views born of mutual indiscrimination and superficial knowledge or ignorance. The foreigners, the Europeans, come to India, live in palatial buildings in the perfectly clean and healthy quarters of our towns and compare our native quarters with their neat and beautifully laid out cities at home. The Indians with whom they come in contact are only of one class, those who hold some sort of employment under them. And indeed, distress and poverty are nowhere else to be met with as in India. Besides that, there is no gainsaying that dirt and filth are everywhere. To the European mind, it is inconceivable that anything good can possibly be amidst such dirt, such slavery, and such degradation. We, on the other hand, see that the Europeans eat without discrimination whatever they get, have no idea of cleanliness as we have, do not observe caste distinctions, freely mix with women, drink wine, and shamelessly dance at a ball, men and women held in each other's arms. And we ask ourselves in amazement, what good can there be in such a nation? Both these views are derived from without and do not look within and below the surface. We do not allow foreigners to mix in our society, and we call them lechas. They also, in their turn, hate us as slaves and call us niggers. In both of these views, there must be some truth, though neither of the parties has seen the real thing behind the other. With every man, there is an idea. The external man is only the outward manifestation, the mere language of this idea within. Likewise, every nation has a corresponding national idea. This idea is working for the world and is necessary for its preservation. The day when the necessity of an idea as an element for the preservation of the world is over, that very day the receptacle of that idea, whether it be an individual or a nation, will meet destruction. The reason that we Indians are still living in spite of so much misery, distress, poverty, and oppression from within and without is that we have a national idea, which is yet necessary for the preservation of the world. The Europeans too have a national idea of their own, without which the world will not go on. Therefore, they are so strong. Does a man live a moment if he loses all his strength? A nation is the sum total of so many individual men. Will a nation live if it has utterly lost all its strength and activity? Why did not this Hindu race die out in the face of so many troubles and tumults of 1,000 years? If our customs and manners are so very bad, how is it that we have not been effaced from the face of the earth by this time? Have the various foreign conquerors spared any pains to crush us out? Why then were not the Hindus blotted out of existence, as happened with men in other countries which are uncivilized? Why was not India depopulated and turned into a wilderness? Why then foreigners would have lost no time to come and settle in India and till her fertile lands in the same way as they did and are still doing in America, Australia, and Africa? Well then, my foreigner, you are not so strong as you think yourself to be. It is a vain imagination. First, understand that India has strength as well, has a substantial reality of her own yet. Furthermore, understand that India is still living because she has her own quota yet to give to the general store of the world's civilization. And you too understand this full well. I mean those of our countrymen who have become thoroughly Europeanized both in external habits and in ways of thought and ideas, and who are continually crying their eyes out and praying to the European to save them. We are degraded, we have come down to the level of brutes. O ye European people, you are our saviors. Have pity on us and raise us from this fallen state. And you too understand this, who are singing Te Deums and raising a hue and cry that Jesus is come to India, and are seeing the fulfillment of the divine decree in the fullness of time. Oh dear, no, neither Jesus is come nor Jehovah, nor will they come. They are now busy in saving their own hearths and homes and have no time to come to our country. Here is the self-same old Shiva seated as before, the bloody Mother Kali worshipped with the self-same paraphernalia, the pastoral shepherd of love, Sri Krishna, playing on his flute. Once this old Shiva, riding on his bull and laboring on his damaru, travelled from India, on the one side to Sumatra, Borneo, Celebes, Australia, as far as the shores of America, and on the other side, this old Shiva battened his bull in Tibet, China, Japan, and as far up as Siberia, and is still doing the same. The Mother Kali is still exacting her worship even in China and Japan. It is she whom the Christians metamorphosed into the Virgin Mary and worship as the mother of Jesus the Christ. Behold the Himalayas. There to the north is Kailas, the main abode of the old Shiva. That throne the 10-headed, 20-armed, mighty Ravana could not shake. Now for the missionaries to attempt the task? Bless my soul. Here in India will ever be the old Shiva laboring on his damru, the Mother Kali worshipped with animal sacrifice, and the lovable Sri Krishna playing on his flute. Firm as the Himalayas they are, and no attempts of anyone, Christian or other missionaries, will ever be able to remove them. If you cannot bear them, avaunt. For a handful of you, shall a whole nation be wearied out of all patience and bored to death? Why don't you make your way somewhere else where you may find fields to graze upon freely? The wide world is open to you. But no, That they won't do. Where is that strength to do it? They would eat the salt of that old Shiva and play him false, slander him, and sing the glory of a foreign savior. Dear me, to such of our countrymen who go whimpering before foreigners, we are very low, we are mean, we are degraded, everything we have is diabolical. To them we say, yes, that may be the truth, forsooth, because you profess to be truthful and we have no reason to disbelieve you. But why do you include the whole nation in that we? Pray, sirs, what sort of good manner is that? First, we have to understand that there are not any good qualities which are the privileged monopoly of one nation only. Of course, as with individuals, so with nations, there may be a prevalence of certain good qualities, more or less in one nation than in another. With us, the prominent idea is mukti. With the Westerners, it is dharma. What we desire is mukti. What they want is dharma. Here the word dharma is used in the sense of the Mimamsakas. What is dharma? Dharma is that which makes man seek for happiness in this world or the next. Dharma is established on work. Dharma is impelling man day and night to run after and work for happiness. What is mukti? That which teaches that even the happiness of this life is slavery, and the same is the happiness of the life to come. Because neither this world nor the next is beyond the laws of nature. Only the slavery of this world is to that of the next as an iron chain is to a gold one. Again, happiness, wherever it may be, being within the laws of nature, is subject to death and will not last ad infinitum. Therefore, man must aspire to become mukta. He must go beyond the bondage of the body. Slavery will not do. This moksha path is only in India and nowhere else. Hence is true the oft-repeated saying that mukta souls are only in India and in no other country. But it is equally true that in future they will be in other countries as well. That is well and good, and a thing of great pleasure to us. There was a time in India when dharma was compatible with mukti. There were worshippers of dharma such as Yudhishthira, Arjuna, Duryodhana, Bhishma and Karna, side by side with the aspirants of mukti such as Vyasa, Shuka and Janaka. On the advent of Buddhism, dharma was entirely neglected and the path of moksha alone became predominant. Hence, we read in the Agni Purana, in the language of similes, that the demon Gayasura, that is Buddha, tried to destroy the world by showing the path of moksha to all, and therefore the Devas held a council and by stratagem set him at rest forever. However, the central fact is that the fall of our country, of which we hear so much spoken, is due to the utter want of this dharma. If the whole nation practices and follows the path of moksha, that is well and good, but is that possible? Without enjoyment, renunciation can never come. First enjoy, and then you can renounce. Otherwise, if the whole nation all of a sudden takes up sannyasa, it does not gain what it desires, but it loses what it had into the bargain. The bird in the hand is fled, nor is that in the bush caught. When in the heyday of Buddhistic supremacy, thousands of sannyasins lived in every monastery, then it was that the country was just on the verge of its ruin. The Bauddhas, the Christians, the Mussalmans, and the Jains prescribe in their folly the same law and the same rule for all. That is a great mistake. Education, habits, customs, laws, and rules should be different for different men and nations, in conformity with their difference of temperament. What will it avail if one tries to make them all uniform by compulsion? The Bauddhas declared, "Nothing is more desirable in life than moksha, whoever you are. Come one and all to take it." I ask, is that ever possible? You are a householder. You must not concern yourself much with things of that sort. You do your swadharma, natural duty. Thus say the Hindu scriptures. Exactly so. He who cannot leap 1 foot is going to jump across the ocean to Lanka in 1 bound? Is it reason? You cannot feed your own family or dole out food to 2 of your fellow men. You cannot do even an ordinary piece of work for the common good, in harmony with others, and you are running after mukti? The Hindu scriptures say, no doubt, moksha is far superior to dharma, but dharma should be finished first of all. The Bauddhas were confounded just there and brought about all sorts of mischief. Non-injury is right. Resist not evil is a great thing. These are indeed grand principles, but the scriptures say, "Thou art a householder. If anyone smites thee on thy cheek, and thou dost not return him an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, thou wilt verily be a sinner. Manu says, when one has come to kill you, there is no sin in killing him, even though he be a Brahmin. This is very true, and this is a thing which should not be forgotten. Heroes only enjoy the world. Show your heroism. Apply, according to circumstances, the fourfold political maxims of conciliation, bribery, sowing dissensions, and open war to win over your adversary and enjoy the world. Then you will be dharmika, righteous. Otherwise, you live a disgraceful life if you pocket your insults when you are kicked and trodden down by anyone who takes it into his head to do so. Your life is a veritable hell here, and so is the life hereafter. This is what the Shastras say. Do your Swadharma. This is truth, the truth of truths. This is my advice to you, my beloved co-religionists. Of course, do not do any wrong, do not injure or tyrannize over anyone, but try to do good to others as much as you can. But passively to submit to wrong done by others is a sin. With the householder, he must try to pay them back in their own coin then and there. The householder must earn money with great effort and enthusiasm, and by that must support and bring comforts to his own family and to others, and perform good works as far as possible. If you cannot do that, how do you profess to be a man? You are not a householder even. What to talk of moksha for you? We have said before that dharma is based on work. The nature of the dharmika is constant performance of action with efficiency. Why, even the opinion of some Mimamsakas is that those parts of the Vedas which do not enjoin work are not, properly speaking, Vedas at all. One of the aphorisms of Jaimini runs, Amna yasya kriyarthatva danarthakya matadarthanam. The purpose of the Vedas being work, those parts of the Vedas that do not deal with work miss the mark. By constant repetition of the syllable Om and by meditating on its meaning, everything can be obtained. All sins are washed away by uttering the name of the Lord. He gets all who resigns himself to the will of God. Yes, these words of the Shastras and the sages are no doubt true. But do you see, thousands of us are, for our whole life, meditating on Om, are getting ecstatic in devotion in the name of the Lord, and are crying, Thy will be done, I am fully resigned to Thee. And what are they actually getting in return? Absolutely nothing. How do you account for this? The reason lies here, and it must be fully understood. Whose meditation is real and effective? Who can really resign himself to the will of God? Who can utter with power irresistible, like that of a thunderbolt, the name of the Lord? It is he who has earned Chitta Shuddhi, that is, whose mind has been purified by work, or in other words, he who is the dharmika. Every individual is a center for the manifestation of a certain force. This force has been stored up as the resultant of our previous works, and each one of us is born with this force at his back. So long as this force has not worked itself out, who can possibly remain quiet and give up work? Until then, he will have to enjoy or suffer according to the fruition of his good or bad work and will be irresistibly impelled to do work. Since enjoyment and work cannot be given up till then, is it not better to do good rather than bad works, to enjoy happiness rather than suffer misery? Sri Ram Prasad used to say, they speak of two works, good and bad. Of them, it is better to do the good. Now, what is that good which is to be pursued? The good for him who desires moksha is one, and the good for him who wants dharma is another. This is the great truth which the Lord Sri Krishna, the revealer of the Gita, has tried therein to explain, and upon this great truth is established the Varnashrama system and the doctrine of Swadharma etc. of the Hindu religion. Adveshta sarvabhutanam maitrah karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankaraha samadukha sukhaha kshami. He who has no enemy and is friendly and compassionate towards all, who is free from the feelings of me and mine, even-minded in pain and pleasure, and forbearing, these and other epithets of like nature are for him whose one goal in life is moksha. Klaibyam masma gamaf partha naitatvayu papadyate kshudram hridaya daurbalyam tyaktvotishtha parantapa. Yield not to unmanliness, O son of Pritha. Ill doth it befit thee. Cast off this mean faint-heartedness and arise, O scorcher of thine enemies. Tasmat tvamuttishta yasho labhasva Jitva shatrun bhukshva rajyam samriddham. Mayai vaite nihatav purvameva. Nimittamatram bhava savyasachin. Therefore, do thou arise and acquire fame. After conquering thy enemies, enjoy unrivaled dominion. Verily, by myself have they been already slain. Be thou merely the instrument, O Savyasachin. Arjuna. In these and similar passages in the Gita, the Lord is showing the way to dharma. Of course, work is always mixed with good and evil, and to work, one has to incur sin, more or less. But what of that? Let it be so. Is not something better than nothing? Is not insufficient food better than going without any? Is not doing work, though mixed with good and evil, better than doing nothing and passing an idle and inactive life and being like stones? The cow never tells a lie, and the stone never steals, but nevertheless, the cow remains a cow and the stone a stone. Man steals and man tells lies, and again, it is man that becomes a god. With the prevalence of the Sattvika essence, man becomes inactive and rests always in a state of deep dhyana or contemplation. With the prevalence of the Rajas, he does bad as well as good works. And with the prevalence of the Tamas again, he becomes inactive and inert. Now tell me, looking from outside, how are we to understand whether you are in a state wherein the Sattva or the Tamas prevails? Whether we are in the state of Sattvika calmness beyond all pleasure and pain and past all work and activity, or whether we are in the lowest Tamasika state, lifeless, passive, dull as dead matter, and doing no work, because there is no power in us to do it, and are thus silently and by degrees getting rotten and corrupted within. I seriously ask you this question and demand an answer. Ask your own mind, and you shall know what the reality is. But what need to wait for the answer? The tree is known by its fruit. The sattva prevailing, the man is inactive, he is calm, to be sure. But that inactivity is the outcome of the centralization of great powers. That calmness is the mother of tremendous energy. That highly sattvika man, that great soul, has no longer to work as we do with hands and feet. By his mere willing only, all his works are immediately accomplished to perfection. That man of predominating sattva is the Brahmin, the worshipped of all. Has he to go about from door to door begging others to worship him? The Almighty Mother of the universe writes with her own hand in golden letters on his forehead, "Worship ye all this great one, this son of mine." And the world reads and listens to it and humbly bows down its head before him in obedience. That man is really Adveshta Sarvabhutanam Maitrah Karuna Evacha Nirmamo Nirahankaraha Samadukkha Sukhaha Kshami. He who has no enemy and is friendly and compassionate towards all, who is free from the feelings of me and mine, even-minded in pain and pleasure, and forbearing. And mark you, those things which you see in pusillanimous, effeminate folk who speak in a nasal tone chewing every syllable, whose voice is as thin as of one who has been starving for a week, who are like a tattered wet rag, who never protest or are moved even if kicked by anybody. Those are the signs of the lowest tamas. Those are the signs of death, not of sattva, all corruption and stench. It is because Arjuna was going to fall into the ranks of these men that the Lord is explaining matters to him so elaborately in the Gita. Is that not the fact? Listen to the very first words that came out of the mouth of the Lord. Klaibyam masma gamaf partha naitatvayu papadyate. Yield not to unmanliness, O Partha. Ill doth it befit thee. And then later, Tasmatva muttishta yasho labhasva. Therefore, do thou arise and acquire fame. Now let us go on with our subject matter, the East and the West. First, see the irony of it. Jesus Christ, the God of the Europeans, has taught, "Have no enemy, bless them that curse you. Whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. Stop all your work and be ready for the next world. The end of the world is near at hand." And our Lord in the Gita is saying, always work with great enthusiasm, destroy your enemies and enjoy the world. But after all, it turned out to be exactly the reverse of what Christ or Krishna implied. The Europeans never took the words of Jesus Christ seriously. Always of active habits, being possessed of a tremendous rajasic nature, they are gathering with great enterprise and youthful ardor the comforts and luxuries of the different countries of the world and enjoying them to their heart's content. And we are sitting in a corner with our bag and baggage, pondering on death day and night, and singing Nalini Dalagata Jalamati Taralam Tadvat Jivana Matishaya Chapalam. Very tremulous and unsteady is the water on the lotus leaf. So is the life of man, frail and transient, with the result that it is making our blood run cold and our flesh creep with the fear of Yama, the god of death. And Yama, too, alas, has taken us at our word, as it were. Plague and all sorts of maladies have entered into our country. Who are following the teachings of the Gita? The Europeans. And who are acting according to the will of Jesus Christ? The descendants of Sri Krishna. This must be well understood. The Vedas were the first to find and proclaim the way to moksha, and from that one source, the Vedas, was taken whatever any great teacher, say Buddha or Christ, afterwards taught. Now they were sannyasins, and therefore they had no enemy and were friendly and compassionate towards all. That was well and good for them. But why this attempt to compel the whole world to follow the same path to moksha? Can beauty be manufactured by rubbing and scrubbing? Can anybody's love be won by threats or force? What does Buddha or Christ prescribe for the man who neither wants moksha nor is fit to receive it? Nothing. Either you must have moksha or you are doomed to destruction. These are the only two ways held forth by them, and there is no middle course. You are tied hand and foot in the matter of trying for anything other than moksha. There is no way shown how you may enjoy the world a little for a time. Not only all openings to that are hermetically sealed to you, but in addition, there are obstructions put at every step. It is only the Vedic religion which considers ways and means and lays down rules for the fourfold attainment of man, comprising dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Buddha ruined us, and so did Christ ruin Greece and Rome. Then in due course of time, fortunately, the Europeans became Protestants, shook off the teachings of Christ as represented by papal authority, and heaved a sigh of relief. In India, Kumarila again brought into currency the Karma Marga, the way of karma only, and Shankara and Ramanuja firmly re-established the eternal Vedic religion, harmonizing and balancing in due proportions dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Thus the nation was brought to the way of regaining its lost life. But India has 300 million souls to wake, and hence the delay. To revive 300 millions, can it be done in a day? The aims of the Buddhistic and the Vedic religions are the same, but the means adopted by the Buddhistic are not right. If the Buddhistic means were correct, then why have we been thus hopelessly lost and ruined? It will not do to say that the efflux of time has naturally wrought this. Can time work, transgressing the laws of cause and effect? Therefore, though the aims are the same, the Bodhas, for want of right means, have degraded India. Perhaps my Bodha brothers will be offended at this remark and fret and fume, but there's no help for it. The truth ought to be told, and I do not care for the result. The right and correct means is that of the Vedas, the Jati Dharma, that is, the Dharma enjoined according to the different castes, the Swadharma, that is, one's own Dharma, or set of duties prescribed for man according to his capacity and position, which is the very basis of Vedic religion and Vedic society. Again, perhaps, I am offending many of my friends who are saying, I suppose, that I am flattering my own countrymen. Here let me ask them once for all, what do I gain by such flattery? Do they support me with any money or means? On the contrary, they try their best to get possession of money which I secure by begging from outside of India for feeding the famine-stricken and the helpless. And if they do not get it, they abuse and slander. Such then, O my educated countrymen, are the people of my country. I know them too well to expect anything from them by flattery. I know they have to be treated like the insane, and anyone who administers medicine to a madman must be ready to be rewarded with kicks and bites. But he is the true friend who forces the medicine down the throats of such and bears with them in patience. Now this Jati Dharma, this Swadharma, is the path of welfare of all societies in every land, the ladder to ultimate freedom. With the decay of this Jati Dharma, this Swadharma, has come the downfall of our land. But the Jati Dharma or Swadharma as commonly understood at present by the higher castes is rather a new evil, which has to be guarded against. They think they know everything of Jati Dharma, but really they know nothing of it. Regarding their own village customs as the eternal customs laid down by the Vedas and appropriating to themselves all privileges, they are going to their doom. I am not talking of caste as determined by qualitative distinction, but of the hereditary caste system. I admit that the qualitative caste system is the primary one, but the pity is qualities yield to birth in 2 or 3 generations. Thus, the vital point of our national life has been touched. Otherwise, why should we sink to this degraded state? Read in the Gita, Sankarasya chakartasyam upahanyam imaf prajaha. I should then be the cause of the admixture of races, and I should thus ruin these beings. How came this terrible Varnasamkarya, this confounding mixture of all castes, and disappearance of all qualitative distinctions? Why has the white complexion of our forefathers now become black? Why did the Sattva Guna give place to the prevailing tamas with a sprinkling, as it were, of rajas in it? That is a long story to tell, and I reserve my answer for some future occasion. For the present, try to understand this, that if the Jati Dharma be rightly and truly preserved, the nation shall never fall. If this is true, then what was it that brought our downfall? That we have fallen is the sure sign that the basis of the Jati Dharma has been tampered with. Therefore, what you call the Jati Dharma is quite contrary to what we have in fact. First, read your own Shastras through and through, and you will easily see that what the Shastras define as caste dharma has disappeared almost everywhere from the land. Now try to bring back the true Jati Dharma, and then it will be a real and sure boon to the country. What I have learnt and understood, I am telling you plainly. I have not been imported from some foreign land to come and save you, that I should countenance all your foolish customs and give scientific explanations for them. It does not cost our foreign friends anything. They can well afford to do so. You cheer them up and heap applause upon them, and that is the acme of their ambition. But if dirt and dust be flung at your faces, it falls on mine too. Don't you see that? I have said elsewhere that every nation has a national purpose of its own, either in obedience to the law of nature or by virtue of the superior genius of the great ones. The social manners and customs of every nation are being molded into shape, so as to bring that purpose to fruition. In the life of every nation, besides that purpose and those manners and customs that are essentially necessary to effect that purpose, all others are superfluous. It does not matter much whether those superfluous customs and manners grow or disappear, but a nation is sure to die when the main purpose of its life is hurt. When we were children, we heard the story of a certain ogress who had her soul living in a small bird, and unless the bird was killed, the ogress would never die. The life of a nation is also like that. Again, another thing you will observe, that a nation will never greatly grudge if it be deprived of these rights which have not much to do with its national purpose, nay, even if all of such are wrested from it. But when the slightest blow is given to that purpose on which rests its national life, that moment it reacts with tremendous power. Take for instance the case of the 3 living nations, of whose history you know more or less, viz., the French, the English, and the Hindu. Political independence is the backbone of the French character. French subjects bear calmly all oppressions. Burden them with heavy taxes, they will not raise the least voice against them. Compel the whole nation to join the army, they never complain. But the instant anyone meddles with that political independence, the whole nation will rise as one man and madly react. No one man shall be allowed to usurp authority over us, whether learned or ignorant, rich or poor, of noble birth or of the lower classes. We have equal share in the government of our country and in the independent control of our society. This is the root principle of the French character. He must suffer who will try to interfere with this freedom. In the English character, the give and take policy, the business principle of the trader, is principally inherent. To the English, just and equitable distribution of wealth is of essential interest. The Englishman humbly submits to the king and to the privileges of the nobility. Only if he has to pay a farthing from his pocket, he must demand an account of it. There is the king, that is all right. He is ready to obey and honor him. But if the king wants money, the Englishman says, "All right, but first let me understand why it is needed, what good it will bring. Next, I must have my say in the matter of how it is to be spent, and then I shall part with it." The king, once trying to exact money from the English people by force, brought about a great revolution. They killed the king. The Hindu says that political and social independence are well and good, but the real thing is spiritual independence, mukti. This is our national purpose. Whether you take the Vedika, the Jaina, or the Bauddha, the Advaita, the Vishishtadvaita, or the Dvaita, There, they are all of one mind. Leave that point untouched and do whatever you like. The Hindu is quite unconcerned and keeps silence. But if you run foul of him there, beware, you court your ruin. Rob him of everything he has, kick him, call him a nigger or any such name. He does not care much. Only keep that one gate of religion free and unmolested. Look here, how in the modern period the Pathan dynasties were coming and going, but could not get a firm hold of their Indian empire because they were all along attacking the Hindus' religion. And see how firmly based, how tremendously strong was the Mughal empire. Why? Because the Mughals left that point untouched. In fact, Hindus were the real prop of the Mughal empire. Do you not know that Jahangir, Shah Jahan, and Dara Shikoh were all born of Hindu mothers? Now then observe, as soon as the ill-fated Aurangzeb again touched that point, the vast Mughal empire vanished in an instant like a dream. Why is it that the English throne is so firmly established in India? Because it never touches the religion of the land in any way. The sapient Christian missionaries tried to tamper a little with this point, and the result was the mutiny of 1857. So long as the English understand this thoroughly and act accordingly, their throne in India will remain unsullied and unshaken. The wise and far-seeing among the English also comprehend this and admit it. Read Lord Roberts' 41 Years in India. Now you understand clearly where the soul of this ogress is. It is in religion. Because no one was able to destroy that, therefore the Hindu nation is still living, having survived so many troubles and tribulations. Well, one Indian scholar asks, what is the use of keeping the soul of the nation in religion? Why not keep it in social or political independence, as is the case with other nations? It is very easy to talk like that. If it be granted, for the sake of argument, that religion and spiritual independence and soul, God and mukti are all false, even then see how the matter stands. As the same fire is manifesting itself in different forms, so the same one great force is manifesting itself as political independence with the French, as mercantile genius and expansion of the sphere of equity with the English, and as the desire for mukti or spiritual independence with the Hindu. Be it noted that by the impelling of this great force has been molded the French and the English character through several centuries of vicissitudes of fortune, and also by the inspiration of that great force, with the rolling of thousands of centuries, has been the present evolution of the Hindu national character. I ask in all seriousness, which is easier, to give up our national character evolved out of thousands of centuries, or your grafted foreign character of a few hundred years? Why do not the English forget their warlike habits and give up fighting and bloodshed, and sit calm and quiet, concentrating their whole energy on making religion the sole aim of their life? The fact is that the river has come down 1,000 miles from its source in the mountains. Does it, or can it go back to its source? If it ever tries to trace back its course, it will simply dry up by being dissipated in all directions. Anyhow, the river is sure to fall into the ocean, sooner or later, either by passing through open and beautiful plains or struggling through grimy soil. If our national life of these 10,000 years has been a mistake, then there is no help for it, and if we try now to form a new character, the inevitable result will be that we shall die. But excuse me if I say that it is sheer ignorance and want of proper understanding to think like that, namely, that our national ideal has been a mistake. First go to other countries and study carefully their manners and conditions with your own eyes, not with others, and reflect on them with a thoughtful brain, if you have it. Then read your own scriptures, your ancient literature, travel throughout India, and mark the people of her different parts and their ways and habits with the wide-awake eye of an intelligent and keen observer, not with a fool's eye, and you will see as clear as noonday that the nation is still living intact and its life is surely pulsating. You will find there also that hidden under the ashes of apparent death, the fire of our national life is yet smouldering, and that the life of this nation is religion, its language religion, and its idea religion. And your politics, society, municipality, plague prevention work, and famine relief work, all these things will be done as they have been done all along here, viz., only through religion. Otherwise, all your frantic yelling and bewailing will end in nothing, my friend. Besides, in every country, the means is the same after all. That is, whatever only a handful of powerful men dictate becomes the fait accompli. The rest of the men only follow like a flock of sheep, that's all. I have seen your parliament, your senate, your vote, majority, ballot. It is the same thing everywhere, my friend. The powerful men in every country are moving society whatever way they like, and the rest are only like a flock of sheep. Now, the question is this: who are these men of power in India? They who are giants in religion. It is they who lead our society, and it is they again who change our social laws and usages when necessity demands, and we listen to them silently and do what they command. The only difference with ours is that we have not that superfluous fuss and bustle of the majority, the vote, ballot, and similar concomitant tugs of war as in other countries. That is all. Of course, we do not get that education which the common people in the West do, by the system of vote and ballot, etc. But on the other hand, we have not also amongst us that class of people who, in the name of politics, rob others and fatten themselves by sucking the very lifeblood of the masses in all European countries. If you ever saw, my friend, that shocking sight behind the scene of acting of these politicians, that revelry of bribery, that robbery in broad daylight, that dance of the devil in man, which are practiced on such occasions, you would be hopeless about man. Milk goes a begging from door to door, while the grog shop is crowded. The chaste woman seldom gets the wherewithal to hide her modesty, while the woman of the town flutters about in all her jewelry. They that have money have kept the government of the land under their thumb, are robbing the people and sending them as soldiers to fight and be slain on foreign shores, so that in case of victory, their coffers may be full of gold bought by the blood of the subject people on the field of battle. And the subject people? Well, theirs is only to shed their blood. This is politics. Don't be startled, my friend. Don't be lost in its mazes. First of all, try to understand this. Does man make laws, or do laws make man? Does man make money, or does money make man? Does man make name and fame, or name and fame make man? Be a man first, my friend, and you will see how all those things and the rest will follow of themselves after you. Give up that hateful malice, that dog-like bickering and barking at one another, and take your stand on goal purpose, right means, righteous courage, and be brave. When you are born a man, leave some indelible mark behind you. When you first came to this world, O Tulsi, the world rejoiced and you cried. Now live your life in doing such acts that when you will leave this world, the world will cry for you and you will leave it laughing. If you can do that, then you are a man. Otherwise, what good are you? Next, you must understand this, my friend, that we have many things to learn from other nations. The man who says he has nothing more to learn is already at his last grasp. The nation that says it knows everything is on the very brink of destruction. As long as I live, so long do I learn. But one point to note here is that when we take anything from others, we must mold it after our own way. We shall add to our stock what others have to teach, but we must always be careful to keep intact what is essentially our own. For instance, suppose I want to have my dinner cooked in the European fashion. When taking food, the Europeans sit on chairs and we are accustomed to squat on the floor. To imitate the Europeans, if I order my dinner to be served on a table and have to sit on a chair more than an hour, my feet will be in a fair way of going to Yama's door, as they say, and I shall writhe in torture. What do you say to that? So I must squat on the floor in my own style while having their dishes. Similarly, whenever we learn anything from others, we must mold it after our own fashion, always preserving in full our characteristic nationality. Let me ask, does man wear clothes or do clothes make the man? The man of genius in any dress commands respect, but nobody cares for fools like me, though carrying, like the washerman's ass, a load of clothes on my back.